Hello, this is Greg Allison with Green Greg's coming to you on the evening, late hours of the 17th of November, 2020. And I've got to report to you that on the 13th of November, there was heavy fire and shelling between Pakistan and India across their line of control. And I'm going to talk to you about why that matters, because a lot of you are going to say, Greg, what does it matter? That's way over there. Well, I don't care. That's India. That's Pakistan. Well, because it can directly and adversely affect you right here. I've talked a lot on this channel about food shortages. What do you think a nuclear winter could do? And what we're talking about is a study that says just the exchange of 50 of the smaller weapons, like the Hiroshima style weapons, in exchange for these countries could have dramatic effects. I'm going to talk all about that. I'm even going to show you a few pictures from this attack, a little video. So we're going to get all into that for why this matters. And it does. It can affect us here. And it can also open up larger conflicts, because even though India and Pakistan may be at it, there's also a lot of tension between India and China. And if India starts looking over here, China might see that as an opportunity to flank them from back here. So China might see that as an opportunity to make a move onto territory they want, which India's not going to sit well with that. So, but what's going to happen here? There's a lot of instability in that region, more than you might imagine. And India and Pakistan have been having continuous conflicts, including 4 wars. I'm going to go into that just a little bit more. But yeah, these are things you're going to have to get ready for. These are things you're going to have to be concerned with. And I'm going to explain why. And I'm going to explain a lot about close calls that we've had between the United States and Russia, and why India and Pakistan don't have a lot of the luxury we have between the United States and Russia, or the old Soviet Union, in terms of being able to discern whether something is real or not. All that is coming. So strap in and get ready for all this. But in the meantime, I do have one bit of really good news. And that really good bit of news is that bada bing, bada bang, as you might imagine, yes, there's I have a special deal right now with $100 off a 4-week supply of long-term 25-year storage food. The reason I keep promoting this so much is, guess what? I've been telling you that prices are going up. Look at that. Right now, that's the price you can get it at. 4 weeks worth, 2,000 calories a day. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Get this and you're a winner. At that price, holy smoke, for stuff that lasts 25 years, and it's real food. It's not freeze-dried stuff. But there's a time limit on it. It's clicking down. So I'm expecting some of these are probably this price. They can't sustain that forever, because food prices are going up, my friends. And their other costs are going up. So eventually that's got to change. So I would grab it while the getting's good, in my old parlance. But the good news is also on this site, so you can get a smaller amount if that's too much for you. You can get a 2-week supply. And a 2-week supply, it comes in these buckets. And these buckets are very easy to carry around and good for other things once you've used the food in them. And they come in these little pouches, which you can throw in your backpack and bug out easily. You can bug it with a bucket. But if you just need to put stuff in a backpack, bada bing, bada bang, there you go. You're ready to roll. And there's more supplies here you can get, which is cool, because right now you really need to prep with all the things going on in the world, all the instabilities in the world from outside to inside, because we got tensions between us and China, between China and India, between India and Pakistan, between ourselves here at home. Holy smoke, what's going on? And my friends, you can get all kind of survival goods here. You can get other food, including gluten-free. Somebody said, oh, they don't have gluten-free. Well, you didn't look over to see. That's how come you thought off that. Survival gear, cooking gear, power, lighting, first aid, stoves, survival books, water filtration. I've done videos on that. Air purification, all kind of good stuff. Now, I'm going to get off this site now. But I don't want to stop share. We're going to go over here or somewhere else. Hang on, bam. Actually, check this out. This is one of the tags. I'll let you see this now, and I'm going to talk to you about this stuff. Here's one of the tags. This really happened, guys. See that? Boom. This is a Pakistani outpost getting destroyed by the Indians. Look, I think the flag survived. Holy smoke. They might have their own Star Spangled Banner song with the Pakistani flag now, huh? I don't know. I doubt it. I'll show you another video. Then we're going to talk about it. Oh, that wasn't it. Where was it at? Zoom kills me. Okay, I thought I had another thing open up. Oh, we'll go here. This will take us to Twitter. Hang on. What's this? You can see the missile approaching right here. Bam. Yeah, they got it going on. That's pretty destructive. That's not a peaceful exchange, my friends. So let's talk about this. Let's get out of that. We'll stop the share and we'll come back here in a little bit. We'll talk about close calls and a little bit other things. I'm going to stop the share for now if I can shut that off. Stop. Too rackety shack. Bam. Yeah, we're going to talk about all that here in just a second. So let's stop the share and come back to me. Hello. Excuse me. Oh, that's not COVID. I've had a long-standing cough for a long time, my friends. Anyway, check for time. All right. As I said, on Friday the 13th, the Indian Army destroyed several Pakistani bunkers, outposts, ammunition bunkers in retaliation for an attack that Pakistan had earlier fired upon India. The attack upon the Indian side ended the lives of 4 Indian soldiers, and it killed 6 civilians. I don't know what the words I use. And it also, now this is not a terrorist event. This is a border skirmish, almost an act of war. It is like a low-level war, really, between India and Pakistan right now. The attack, the retaliatory attack by India took out 8 Pakistani soldiers, but it also had took out 5 of the Indian Jaywars and took out also again 6 civilians. I don't know what this is about 6 civilians. It just seems that both sides, that's what they got, and that's most unfortunate. The war is not pretty. Now, were the civilians there in those compounds, or what happened? Or there's other fire going on? It's hard to say, without being there. But that's what was reported. Those are the reports that came out of the region. Now, and there's also heavy exchange between both sides. As you saw, a couple of places getting taken out. There's a lot more. There were several. There were multiple positions that were blown up. There's several videos and other pictures, and I didn't go through them all. That wasn't my point. But it's also said that the Pakistani army was heavily shelling civilian villages prior to the retaliation by the Indian army, at least as reported by India. That's what they claim. Yeah, hey, listen, that's what they're saying. And again, you may say, okay, so the point of this, there's a conflict of sorts. Now, there hasn't been anything happen since Friday the 13th that I'm aware of. Yeah, there's that date. Maybe, the wolves were out. But there's a long history of this kind of thing between the two countries. So the question is, where can it lead? What can happen here? What do we got to be concerned with? Why should we in America, halfway around the world, care about what's going on over there? And there is a history here of conflicts between the two countries. And I thought I had that recorded here somewhere in my notes. So it's, yeah, they've had 4 major wars. I'm having to go from memory here. I had the years written down here. I'm hunting the years, but there's been 4 major wars between Pakistan and India. There have been a long list of, there's been a long list of continuous conflict and skirmishes, of which this is one. And they have been fighting over things like their border and other things, terrorist events, many things between the two countries they have fought over, skirmished over. It's deemed that this is the most probable place in the world for a nuclear war to take place. And it's simply for a number of reasons. One being that the two countries have been at such conflict at each other for so long. there's a lot of tension between the two countries over Kashmir, Jammu, whatever you want to call that area there. Ladakh now, part of the area has been renamed. There has been a lot of consternation over those areas. There has been religious warfare between the two, and many other things, border disputes, and it's deemed that it will really break down to water in the future, because the Himalayas are the source of the water that feeds the Indus River. The Indus River, from which India is named, is now in Pakistan, since the place has been broken into Pakistan and India. So the Indian civilization was known for the Indus River, but India does control the headwaters of the Indus River. And for Pakistan, it could be a problem. It's thought by a lot of thinkers that that's going to lead to conflict somewhere down the road. Now, but the prospect of accidental conflict is very, very high. We've had several near misses between the United States and Russia over the years. I'm going to show you some stuff on that in a moment. But here's one of the other things. Consider the Earth. Just consider physics. We, between the United States and Russia, are blessed by being separated by a good distance. Now, this is not a real globe. This is a little squeezy toy, but I can still use it for illustration, because this somewhat resembles North America. And over here, this somewhat resembles Asia and Russia. So if you think of this as being, there's your Scandinavian region in here, where a lot of my ancestors are from. So if you think of Russia as launching missiles from over here, it takes 30 minutes for a missile launch from Russia to reach the United States. So we got 30 minutes to sit around and figure out well, not 30, we still have some response time. The United States isn't going to wait till they hit to respond, I don't think. Well, at one time they were. There was a policy at one time that we would absorb a first strike and retaliate. But that's not the usual standard procedure. So there's 30 minutes of flight time between here, and vice versa. So 30 minutes says that we have some time to figure out if that launch is real, that we can look in a radar. See, we have something called a dew line. We've got a radar ring around Greenland, northern Canada, and Alaska. Well, they gypped Alaska on this. They also gypped Florida. This must be after sea level rise or something, huh? But they've got a way to tell. But now Russia's got missiles they can launch over the Antarctica, and we ain't got nothing down here in the Gulf of Mexico or looking south. And we're vulnerable there, very, very vulnerable. But their new Satan II missiles, they call it, is very powerful, very powerful. They can launch over Antarctica at us. Something to think about. Now, but this plays into how long we've got to know something's coming before we retaliate. And why don't you want to launch over Antarctica? I would call that a potential sneak attack. That's concerning, very concerning. Now, the problem, so we've got time. Time is on our side, a little bit of time. Now, the problem with India and Pakistan are they're right next door to each other in Asia. This is not a real good representation of Asia either, but hey, it's a squeezy toy. But India and Pakistan are right next. I was trying to get Google Earth to run, and it crashed on me. It's got some issues, so I don't want to show you Google Earth today, but I got squeezy Earth. Nerf Earth works. Nerf Earth, like that. So that's the problem there. So what would an exchange between Pakistan and India cost? They don't have but a few seconds. They're on a hair trigger, maybe a few minutes, very few. My time, in fact, it's almost nothing. If somebody wants to retaliate against the other side, they're both on the hair trigger, both nations. So if they misinterpret what the other side's doing, we could be in a lot of trouble, potentially. Now, they claim that their weapons aren't mounted, but I wouldn't take that to the bank, especially when things are getting hot between the countries. And with India now, with conflicts potentially with China, is more likely to have things ready to go. If India gets things ready to go, so will Pakistan. My sources I was reading, which says that they're probably not, mounted on the missiles. Yeah, right. That was also a little bit old, so you can't trust those things. You cannot go by that whatsoever. Do so at your own peril. Okay. A limited exchange of just 50 Hiroshima-sized nuclear devices in exchange between Pakistan and India, because they're going to be attacking cities. You know, it could result in worldwide famine. We're talking around the world. And Pakistan's got roughly 160 nuclear weapons. India's got about 150. So we're counting to say, hey, well, just 50 of them. One time I was telling you a number, a previous report. I've talked about this before. One of the previous studies I looked at was talking about an exchange of 100, but now they say this would happen, and they talk about the temperature effects and everything. Well, the exchange is just 50 weapons. So this is what we're getting into here. And would they just use 50? All right, we'll talk about that too. Basically, the world would starve for years. Firestorms from the detonations would result in, excuse me, 5 million tons of soot being thrown up into the stratosphere. And it could remain there for over 5 years. It pretty much the same thickness for 5 years. The temperature drop on the surface of the Earth, I'm talking about on the surface. Actually, the stratosphere could get hotter because of that soot hanging there. But the temperature, but the lower Earth is being shaded. So it can get cooler here. Both have bad effects, but we're going to talk about the cooling effect first, because that's what they analyzed. We're talking a drop of 1.8 degrees centigrade or 3.2 degrees Fahrenheit for maybe 5 years. 5 years. But it would take 10 years to fully recover. I mean, it's not like you're just going to snap right back at the end of the 5th year. That would be 5 years solid that cold. And then you start to climb out of it for 5 years. So you're in trouble for a period of 10 years. So scientists are projecting to drop in 11% for crops such as corn, you know, what they call maize overseas. You know, the Indians call it maize, American Indians. Wheat, soybeans, and rice, the 4 major cereal groups in our world. And their production wouldn't return for 10 years. That's provided you get enough infrastructure left after all that to get things going, which you probably would in this case and other parts of the world. Well, discount other effects. You know, we're only looking at the temperature effect. So Dr. Jonas Jaegermeier of NASA's Goddard's Institute for Space Studies, who led this study on this, said that it would exceed I'm trying to read what I wrote here. It would exceed the largest famine in documented history. He says this would exceed the largest famine in documented history. And though the crop losses would be in mainly the northern breadbasket areas, I'm going to show you a picture of this in a minute. Peoples in the southern regions would also suffer. In fact, they would suffer the worst because a lot of these northern countries would probably ban exports because they want to keep the food themselves. And the southern countries are reliant on exports of the huge northern breadbasket surpluses because they produce more than they need to eat in those areas. So usually they have a big surplus. In one of these circumstances, at least according to the analysis that they've done. So what you'd have is crops over anything produced over 30 degrees latitude would suffer. The higher you go, the more it would suffer. I'm over 30 here, but not significantly so. And I wouldn't expect where I'm at to have a great crop loss, but it would affect us. You know, it definitely would affect us. But it's deemed that in the United States there would be 20% less production of corn, maize, however you call it. In Russia, is projected to decrease would be 50%, half the crop. That is very significant. And according to Alan Robach, a climatologist with Rutgers University, he says, as horrible as the direct effects of nuclear weapons would be, more people would die outside of the target areas due to famine. Imagine that. But these studies are really on the conservative side, because I was just telling you there's some things that weren't taken into account. Both India and Pakistan are thought to have bombs much bigger than those Hiroshima and Nagasaki size scale bombs that were studied in the study. They may use more of them. And it also that they did not take into the account for their analysis the loss of the crops within India and Pakistan, which would probably be nothing. It probably wouldn't be going to anything there. You know, India does produce a lot of food, and so does Pakistan. But in this case, it would not. It does not take into account the effects of radioactive fallout that would go around the world and how that would affect crops. And don't remember I was talking about the stratosphere, all this soot going up into the stratosphere? Yeah, that blocks the sunlight from reaching down here. But the heat would increase in the stratosphere. And unfortunately, what that would do is cause the ozone to dissipate. So what you would get is more ultraviolet coming in down here. That also would greatly impact crop and plant life and our own health worldwide. And that analysis was not done. How big an impact would that be? We don't know. So, as I said, many experts have long considered India and Pakistan. Oh, here's my dates. I know I had it somewhere. Have long considered them to be far more likely to engage in a nuclear war due to their continuous fighting. And the four wars were in 1947, 1965, 1971, and 1999. See, in 1971, India, hey, there's my notes. You read that stuff? I can't. Also, I talk a lot of stuff that's not in the notes. I just use that as a prompter to remind me of stuff. But what I'm about to say is not in the notes, but see, it's not in here. What I'm about to say. In 1971, India detonated their first nuclear device, and Pakistan followed in 1997, I believe. Well, 1999, see, they both had nuclear weapons. Fortunately, that did not result in a nuclear conflict between the two nations, but they have had a major war, just both had nuclear weapons. Now, Pakistan probably didn't have that many yet because they were just getting started. And India, neither country would probably want to use them unless they thought they were really threatened. If they thought the other side were going to launch them or they were going to be overran, bingo. But whatever the case is, scientists worldwide have long thought this is where we're most likely to see a nuclear conflict. I've seen scads of articles on this topic for years. And understanding the geometry of the situation, the hair trigger of the situation, because two countries are right next door to each other. Same is true for India and China, by the way. The likelihood is much larger. Now that we factor China into it, when the tensions India are having with China, okay, now we got other dynamics. Maybe China would even goad Pakistan into doing something, hoping it would trigger something that would give China the opportunity to make their advance. Because maybe China goes, oh, we'll just take enough rooms to get our road through here that we want to have up here in the Himalayas, so we can eventually send all them troops down across the Tigris and Euphrates River, like the Revelations talks about. Okay. Hey, this is a live action role playing session. I'm speculating in that statement, okay? But it is prophetic. Some of you know what I'm talking about. Do not know the day and the hour, my friends. But let me do a share here. We're going to go back into sharing, and I'm going to show you some other things. Bing. Bang. If I can get this to go bigger. Bang. This is a map of projected crop losses. Look here, Russia. Wow. Heavy. This black. Okay, black is the most lost. It's like over 60% is black. You see, look, all through Europe. I'm not talking about Europe in here in the analysis. Europe. Okay, the United States, between northern United States and Canada, forget it, Canada. Canada's not going anything in this scenario. Well, I won't say anything, but their crop losses will be far less. Oh, that's the higher side. This is the lower side. Excuse me. Yeah, both are black. Okay, so we're down here. This is the negative. Somebody's done even better. Equatorial regions, I guess. I don't know how they figure that. Warming, cooling. Oh, if it's cooler, maybe crops, some things will grow better at the equator. Interesting analysis. So they're offsetting for that then. But look here. You know, it's not too bad in this area. They do have a little color on it, but it's not so bad in our area here. What they're saying though is there's so much food produced in these areas that is exported to people in these areas, and people in these areas aren't going to be. Interestingly enough, look at, of course, they didn't do an analysis on India and Pakistan, right? Here you can see how right next to each other, bang, 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 right here. It's all right there. And the United States and Russia, some good distance from each other. So, yeah. And of course, India and China right there next to each other. Not good, not good. So that's very significant. That's huge crop losses, especially over in this area. And look, China too. China too. So China would suffer if India and Pakistan got into it. Interesting. Of course, there's fallout. Where would the fallout go? So you got to take all that into account. So let's look here real quick. Close calls. That's between the United States and Russia. List of nuclear close calls. And they're only listing stuff between the United States and Russia because that's been the two players in the world. And this isn't comprehensive. Talking about the Suez crisis. Tilly Green mistakenly interpreted a moonrise over Norway. Oh, that's interesting. Yikes. B-52 crash. All right, on and on. What strikes my interest is more right down here in 1979. This is the kind of thing I worry about. A computer era at Norway headquarters led to an alarm of full preparation for a non-existent large-scale nuclear attack. Full preparation for a non-existent large-scale nuclear attack. NORAD notified National Security Advisor Zbigniew Brzezinski. Remember this guy? Yeah, Carter was president. I was in the Army at this time at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. That the Soviet Union had launched 250 ballistic missiles with a, there you go, there's the map of it coming over, with a trajectory for the United States, stating that a decision to retaliate would need to be made by the president in the next 3 to 7 minutes. NORAD computers then placed the number of incoming missiles at 2,220. Yeah, let's look at this little chart here. You see that? It shows it coming. Let's try and click and keep it up. Uh-oh. Yeah, this shows them coming over, and then the MIRV warheads breaking out and coming down, and the bad consequences on the other side. It takes flight time. You're crossing an ocean, in this case, the Arctic Ocean. Let's go back, bam. Take me back. Okay. Strategic Air Command was notified, and nuclear bombers prepared for takeoff. Within 6 to 7 minutes of the initial response, satellites and radar systems were able to confirm that the attack was a false alarm. Why? Because they had time to confirm it. It took minutes to confirm it. But what was the problem? It was found that a training scenario was inadvertently loaded into an operational computer. Commenting on the incident, U.S. State Department Advisor Marshall Schulman stated that the false alarms of this kind are not a rare occurrence. Now, see, this has happened before. I had heard of these things. I remember when this event happened. I was in the Army at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Okay. But then, just right after that, there is a complacency about handling them, and that disturbs me. That's what he said. In the months following the incident, just after this incident, there were 3 more false alarms at NORAD. 2 of them caused by faulty computer chips. I've heard of those. It wasn't. So this is under one date. They don't relist any of these events. And I've heard of similar events from the Russian side, maybe even worse. But fortunately, they didn't launch on us either for those events. Yeah, I got one below I'm going to highlight too. But so in reality, this one date here represents many, many, many events. And what Marshall Sullivan was talking about was other things similar to what had happened there previously and some after that. This is not comprehensive. Right here, they mentioned 4 events, but that is not, this has happened more than that. That is not comprehensive, by the way. And my friend, Dr. Peter Pry, has many other incidents that are not on this list. And some of you have probably heard of some. Yeah, this is on Wikipedia. And it's just a list of nuclear close calls. And people who are studying on this topic will find and tell you about more than one. For example, there are two of them on here that's attributed to the Cuban Missile Crisis, because we had close calls on the 25th and the 27th of October then. One of them we didn't know about until many years later. We had no idea that we came so close to a really, really, really bad outcome. But one of them that strikes me interesting is this incident where some of my friends were over in Norway, and they were involved in the launch of a Black Brant rocket, sounding rocket, to check out the aurora borealis. They were doing some experiments, launching some barium or cesium or something to check out the magnetic field and things like that. And these experiments these guys normally do, my friends that were involved in this, were located at Wallops Space Flight Center on Tic-Toc Island, in that area. And what they found, what is, they went ahead and reported to the Russian desk, hey, we're going to launch a missile, but the guy at the desk didn't relay the information to the command back in the Soviet Union, or Russia at the time. Boris Yeltsin was president, and they came really close to retaliating because they thought this was a single missile being launched from the Barents Sea, as they thought we would launch at them before we would launch a full-scale missile attack, so that we could EMP them before our main missiles came over the horizon and they could see them. Because when we first launch them, they can't see them because the curvature of the round Earth is why. Yes, that's why they can't see them, because the Earth is round. So when we launch over here, they're looking over the horizon. Their horizon looks up this way. They don't see it. They do not see it until they come up and reach that point that they can see it. That is when, they know that they're under a full. So that's one thing. Yeah, you don't have the full 30 minutes actually because of that, but you still have time. That's why they had 6 or 7 minutes to respond they thought to the false alarm from NORAD. But it is more time than they have between India and Pakistan by a long shot. Anyway, what happened? They got the nuclear footballs out, nuclear briefcase. They were activated, ready to go. The Russian generals were telling Boris to push the button and go ahead. We're under attack. There's no doubt about it. We're under attack. We got to do something. And he just felt, I don't think Clinton's going to do this. Clinton's my friend. Why would he attack me right now? It don't make any sense. We just, he was really bad to get really drunk on vodka. Maybe we were lucky. It was one of his more sober moments. If it wasn't, would we be here today? You really got to wonder. Once they begin, after a bit of time, they begin to see that the stages were falling off that Black Brant rocket in such a way they could tell the trajectory wasn't aimed at them. But that took them a long time to figure that out. Fortunately, again, from Norway to Russia is enough distance that they had enough time to figure that out. Yeah, fortunately. So you can read up on this event. There's a lot of write-up on this event right here. And I knew people I knew that were involved in that rocket launch. No, they were just going, okay, we're launching a Black Brant rocket. Hi, this is wonderful, beautiful. And they didn't even know. They had no idea that Boris Yeltsin, this general, was sweating a nuclear retaliatory strike against the United States. And the Americans that were over there in Norway were just putting experiments on the European Black Brant rocket. I mean, it was a Norwegian launch. Yeah, wasn't that close. Walter Flowers and those guys that were Wallops Flight Center, Space Flight Center. That was a scary moment. So what happens when the nations are right next to each other and they're right there, they got stuff aimed at each other like this, what do you do? How do you live with that? It's a matter of time. How many times can you play Russian roulette with human destiny? It's a matter of time. How much time do we have? Hopefully we'll find ways to get along. We got to find other ways to do this, to get along with each other. It's not easy. Like between America and China, I think we could work with Russia, mainly because Russia is afraid of China. But China, they're on an aggressive spree right now, and they're arming up. How do we get them to reverse and stand down and get rid of this stuff? How do we get them to change their course? How do we get that different? Well, maybe if the people in China decide they don't like the CCP and change it. I say the people in China, I mean mainland China. There's Chinese people that aren't in China, or actually China is bigger than just mainland China. China also includes Taiwan, but that is not part, and never was part of the People's Republic of China, because it is the Republic of China, which pre-existed the People's Republic of China. They were ran out and went into exile when an insurgency started by a group headed by the CCP that called themselves the People's Republic of China took over mainland China. So, yeah, it's not the story you get too often. How much time do we have before things go bad? We've been playing Russian roulette with Russia for some time now. We've been lucky. We've had many close calls. We've been, and I mean, really, really hair on the hair close calls, including an event where Russian commander ordered launch and a sub didn't do it. And his life was destroyed after that. But you know what? We're still here, thankfully. We're still here. It may have something to do with the Universe and the Solar Club I've talked to you guys about. But between Pakistan and India, my friends, get ready. Be prepared. That's all I can say. Let's hope and pray that it doesn't come to pass, and we can somehow find a more peaceful way in this world forward. I think a lot of it might be that people are more independent, totally can produce what they need on their own, that we'll be a lot better off. And I talk about that independence. I've talked about a habitat that would get you there, where people, it would really dampen down everybody's needs for stuff. I think there's too much power in national government. Some people want to put all the power in a global government. You think that would be the biggest tyranny you could imagine? That really, really, really concerns me. So I don't know. What does your crystal ball tell you? I don't know. This is what tells me things. This is how I get my information. It's by reading, learning, studying, analyzing, looking at trend lines, and trying to project where these trends are going, and can these trends be sustained? For example, Ray Kurzweil talking about AI and singularity. He says, you get this doubling, Moore's law, and once you run it for so long, how powerful the computers be. Well, he forgets some things, that things don't double forever. It's like in a petri dish, when the mycelium or bacteria are growing in, when they first put them in there, they're going fast, like an explosion. But eventually they reach the edge of the petri dish. They reach limitations, which is their food source or something like that. And with the computers, it may be the physics in the silicon chip. Once we reach the edge of what we can do and how small we can make things, the doubling of computer power every 2 years under Moore's law starts to stretch out. It starts to strain. But we may find our ways in other mediums that may grow again. It may grow faster. But you can't always assume that you gotta, when you project, the whole point of this is when you project trend lines, you gotta understand the limitations, the physics of the situation you're looking at. Yeah, Ray Kurzweil's a smart man, but I never really trusted that number. But he now says we're going to reach a singularity. Even 10 years, he was saying 2045. Now he's going to 2038, 2035, something like that. I don't know where he's coming from, but I'll tell you, there's things that have limitations. Computers have their own limitations. Until you get neural networks, you'll never get true sentience in a computer, although it may mimic to the point you can't tell the difference. But everything in a computer is done to this date, so far, at least in the digital computers, non-neural network ones, at least, in through an arithmetic logic in it. And the only thing it can do is add, what we call adding ones and zeros. All it's actually doing is correlating according to Boolean logic rules, low and high voltages. And we call it adding. That's the only thing it can really do is add. Subtraction is just adding a negative number. Multiplication is just adding a whole lot of them. And division is subtracting a whole lot of them. And on that, all the simulations that look like everything in the world around you can be based just on ones and zeros. Yeah, okay, qubits will give us more, a bigger alphabet. So there's things like that. It may advance things a lot, but also when you're dealing with probability, you don't get exact answers either with quantum computing. So there's limitations to that too. It's like, you can't be as precise, but you can come to conclusions a lot faster. You just can't be as precise. So maybe they have to use a digital computer to hone it in a little bit. I don't know what the solutions those things will be, but I'm here to tell you that things aren't always as the experts project. I don't care how smart they are. Oh, Greg Allison here can see it. Look, I am an electrical engineer. And I've been a long time space advocate and military study. Big fan of a big buff of the war between the states, just because I wanted to know more about it when I was a kid. I found myself very curious about it, and I've studied these things from years back. Science, military, space have fascinated me since my childhood. But I've also been fascinated by the wilderness. I used to spend all my time in the woods almost. If I wasn't in a book, I was in the woods. And that's what I loved. And I grew up on a farm. We gardened, we farmed, and that's how I can bring you the information I bring you. I've been in the military. I studied military strategy before I went in the military. And that's how I know the things I know. And instead of playing and watching football and TV and ha-ha shows, I try to learn. I spent most of my life trying to learn, curious, working on projects, doing other things. So I had a day job, and I've always had some side venture. Always been some side venture, some side advocation since I was a teenager. I started 2 chapters of the L5 Society. Okay, one of them I was a teenager, the other I was 21. And when I started the third one, I was 23. So I started the Cumberland County L5 Society in North Carolina, the North Star L5 Society, and guess where? Alaska, and the Huntsville, Alabama L5 Society, HAL 5, which started How's the 2 Liftoff program. Halo. All right, enough said. Proposition of my channel is help you survive, thrive, and stay out of the hive. That's why I'm bringing you these kind of news items. This is part of my eyes wide open and head on the swivel news. To get more of this, subscribe to my channel. Bang the bell. Update notification button. Click all. And then come back and double check to make sure you're getting the notifications, because sometimes I talk a little too much. Talk about things that the algorithms are just a little queasy about for some reason. And a lot of people say, Greg, I don't get notifications. But there are those that do, and they wouldn't get them if they didn't subscribe and click the bell. So it's important you do that. That does help my channel. But you do probably need to check. If you're not seeing notifications from me, go back and check. I'm usually posting a video about every day. If you haven't seen anything from me in a couple, 3 days, come back and check. Sometimes I'll try to get 2 of them a day. That's really hard for me because I'm a very, very, very busy man. There's occasion I may miss a day or 2. It takes time to do these videos. It takes a lot of time sometimes to do. Sometimes you got to dig into a little research, even though you may know the area and the topic, just to get the details on the latest event, what just went down, and then to be able to translate that into something that you can use. So why am I telling you these things? Why worry about this stuff? If we have food losses like this, if we have climate affecting us like this, it's going to affect you right here. Now, the United States, has something of a surplus. Overall, we'll do better than these other countries, but the price of food will go up in an event like that, go up dramatically. Availability may go down. If the radiation is a problem, which is questionable how much of that we would get all the way over here from there, if we get some, The ultraviolet may be more of a problem. That may hugely affect the food production. So it's important you be able to grow your own as much as you can. You store long-term food, buy seeds to grow your own stuff and store them too, and grow stuff indoors. Grow microgreens indoors. Start growing indoors. If we go into climate change, however you think it's going to be, hotter or colder, and I do kind of weigh in on the side of the grand solar minimum coming up, so I'm expecting things to get cooler. I think that's why we've been getting so much rain. Do you agree with that or not? Is immaterial. The bottom line is that nothing stays the same. Things change, and you get ready for it. Growing your own food will be very important, especially if the grid goes down. There are many things that can bring our grid down, including the sun. If we don't do anything to harden our grid, if we don't get that moving, eventually the sun is going to bring it down. It will fail. It will fail completely. And based on the kind of analysis I've seen, what I've talked about and numerous times, it's not coming back. If you don't understand that, go back and review some other videos. Maybe I need to haul it all out again and talk about it all over again. I don't see it coming back. Nothing, not in any system that we're used to. I'm glad we got generators, we got this, we got that. Yeah, that's good for a period of time, but when the whole production network, the whole supply chain breaks down, it's a matter of time that your stuff wears out. Just a matter of time. And it's not all replaceable. I mean, you might can patch things together, spent tissue paper for a while. The Cubans amazed me at what they did with their automobiles, but they had power tools and the grid and everything to help them, right? Plus, you know, the gasoline has to be refined, and it also has to be pumped with what? Electrical pumps typically. So eventually things will run out, break down. The first things that's going to wear out and break down are your electronics. And then other stuff. Power tools will last longer. There'll be some old refrigerators and things that may last a couple of decades, 2 or 3. I don't know, my grandma had one that lasted 40, 50 years. It was an old-fashioned Frigidaire, but it was a very simple system. And not as complex as some of the new ones. Reliability is inversely proportional to parts count. Take that from an engineer who's sort of safety and mission assurance for a couple of decades now. So with all those things in mind, that's why I've done videos talking about, you know, buying hose. Know your hose. Yeah, I did a video on that. And just hand tools. Because manual tools that use your muscle are what you'll have to have in the long term. You may break handles, but you can replace them. Keep the other parts sharp. And one of these days, I'm going to set up my blacksmith shop, and I hopefully will do videos on blacksmithing. If the good Lord is willing and we last long enough, I'll show you more and more stuff as we go down. I've done cover a lot of wild edibles videos. I'll do a few more. I may do some for preparing wild foods and wild medicinals. I may switch more to that in some of those future videos. I had a little higher intensity on producing those videos this summer than what I intended to do originally, just simply because I thought there was an urgency. I still think there is, that things can go down fast, and I wanted you to have that information. Because the very first one I did though in that series was on purifying and sanitizing. There's 2 different things: purifying and sanitizing water. Because you can only survive 3 days without water. You might live 30 days without food. Water is more important. Understand that. Also, no, I just put in a well. Water is more important. Oh, I can get water here, but good, clean water. It comes easier from a well. I can get rainwater. I can do things. We got a lot of rainfall here. So I'm going to be redundant in how I approach water. But water is vitally important. That's why my first video, and I talked several ways to purify and sanitize water in that video, including I talk about your sawyers, your live straws. I've talked about the big Berkeley pure type filters with the ceramic filters. I've talked about how to make your own filters with bottles, grass, gravel, and sand, charcoal, and burning the charcoal out of the fire. I showed all that stuff in that video. So check it out. It's a very important video. All right, I've drawn on long enough, but I just want you guys to understand why this is important. It's very important to know these things. It's important to know what's going on around the world. And the real reason and urgency of knowing it is we live in peerless times. And some people argue about that. They say, "Oh, Greg, where's your tinfoil hat? Ha, 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 you're funny." Wow. You know, in 2020, you're still saying that? Yeah, people are still hitting me with that here in 2020. Can you believe it? So there you go. If you've watched this video this long, just ask me, wow, Greg, I can believe it. Just say that. Say, wow, Greg, I can believe it. Then I'll know that you saw it this far out. Because how in the world can people, still go, well, what's going on? Everything's going to be all right. There's no problem. Roll over and go back to sleep. Don't worry your pretty little head. Everything's going to be all right. You know what? I hope that's true. But I'm not banking on it. I really do hope that's true. I'm going to pray for that to be true. But don't bank on it. When you look around the world and you see the tensions internationally, domestically, when you see our financial system as shaky as it is, when you see and understand our grid and how fragile it is, when you understand how fragile our food supply system is, when you understand how our whole society is put together with spit and tissue paper, when you understand the multitude of threats that can take it down. I do hazard analysis, and you look for root causes that can cause a hazard. Wow, we've got lots of them in this area. Lots of root causes can come in. And some of them are quite probable. The probability of a solar coronal mass ejection is 14% per decade. That means that over the course of your kid's life, the chances are that you will see a coronal mass ejection taken out of power grid. And for us not to be doing something about it, to me, is criminal malfeasance, negligence, gross negligence. So that needs to be dealt with. And I've got videos out there about how to get this going. So pay attention to those two. Anyway, I droned on enough. So just remember, yeah, I can believe that. All right, everyone. I believe we can get through this because we are waking up. We are going to spread the word. We're going to wake other people up. I ask you to share my videos, spread them around as much as you can on social media to help wake other people up, because people need to understand these things. My channel is being by the owl snore isms. So help me get it out, spread it, click the likes if it will let you. Some people say, Greg, it won't let me. I've heard that. Click the likes, share. And let's hang in here, guys. Oh yeah, I do have, gosh, I gotta get this email set up. I gotta change my email for you guys, but for right now, email me at hal5space@aol.com if you want to join the Freedom Restoration Foundation. Put freedom in the header. If you want to join the join our tribe network, put tribe in the header. Okay, it's late here. It is 11:14. Almost too late to post this tonight. Dadgummit. I started this at 6, not 6. It was like 7:30 when I started this video. When I started reading up on a couple things, and I just had problems. Zoom didn't work. This had a problem. That had a problem. So really, yeah, I'm a busy guy. It's hard to do these videos. It's hard to find the time. So it's really hard to find the time to do these videos. So just hang in there and get this out there, spread it. Need all the help I can get with this. This is far from the most profitable thing I do or can do, but it's important to get this word out to you guys. So help me out, guys, and let's help each other out. We're a community. We got to stick together because we got to get through this future. On the other side, it can be very beautiful and very bright. We just got to get through this mess that's on us. Anyway, thank you, my friends, for watching. Have an awesome day, night, whatever. Chance I'm going to post this tonight or diminishing every minute here. I had something else. Actually, I wanted to do this video. I'm talking about something happening on the 13th. I meant to do this video earlier. It's just in the pipeline of what I got to do. There's nothing I want to talk about. Iran. I want to do a Iran video a couple of days ago. I just can't get all this stuff out in time. So Iran is probably next. Unless something big happens between now and tomorrow, Iran is next. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching. Have an awesome day, night, whatever you're experiencing. And an awesome weekend coming up in a few days. Bye.